Hey everybody, my name is Alex with Hake Hardware, and in this video we are going to get Grafana set up in Docker. So you can do Grafana as a service, and you can also do Grafana Cloud. So there are a few different ways to install it. In this one we're going to be using Docker. So as a prerequisite, you do need to have Docker installed before proceeding. I have a Ubuntu Docker install guide in here. You can go to Ubuntu, and then there's Docker install, and that'll give you instructions on how to install it. It's like a 2-minute video. It's super quick. And Windows, I'm just linking to the Docker desktop install wiki because they have good instructions there. And then optionally Portainer, you can install that. I'm going to be using Portainer in this guide, so if you want to follow it exactly, you can install Portainer. I have an Ubuntu guide here. I'll eventually get a Portainer Windows guide, but right now I don't have it. And it's honestly, it's almost the exact same installation process for Docker Desktop and Ubuntu. So if you want, you can try installing it on Docker Desktop if you're running Windows. And then there's two different versions of Grafana. There is the open source version and the enterprise version. Feature-wise, they're the same for the free versions, and they're both free. But Enterprise, you can upgrade with a license if you want the paid features of Grafana. Now, I don't care about that, so I'm going to stick with the open source one, and that's what we're going to do in this guide. And the very next thing we're going to do is get the stack file created, and that is basically the same as a Docker Compose if you're familiar with Docker. So I am going to add I'm going to bring up Portainer here. Sorry, I know that was bright. And we're going to jump down to Bob, who is the host that we're going to be installing Grafana on. So I'm going to click Stacks here, add stack. I'm just going to call it Grafana. And then I'm going to jump to my guide here. I'm going to copy, and then I'm just going to paste this in here. And there's nothing I really want to change. Actually, I'm going to change my port. So 3000 is kind of a busy port. A lot of things tend to use 3000, so I like to change it. And how Docker works is the left side is basically the port that's exposed on the host, and the right side is the port that is connected in the actual container itself. So if I want to connect to Grafana from my web browser on port 999, I would change to the left side, so 9999, and then that just basically connects to the service on port 3000 in the container. So it's kind of like translating the ports. You can think of it like port forwarding basically, but I'm going to use 9999. If you don't have anything on 3000, you can leave it. If you want to use a different port, you can use a different port. And then we're just mounting this volume here, and that will allow Grafana to persist data. So if you didn't use that, it would basically, if when you remove this container, you're going to lose all your Grafana data that's associated with it. So by creating this named volume here, we're going to be able to persist the data. So if I remove this and then I create it again, I can just use the same volume and import the data. And that's really it. So let's deploy. And we're going to deploy this just on the default Docker network. We're not going to create a network for this. A lot of times I create a monitoring network, but we're not going to do that for this. We can see it is now running. And we can see it looks like everything is good to go. So we can actually connect to this. And to connect to this, we need to use the IP address of wherever this is running. So I have to use the IP address of Bob on my internal network. Now, if I go to the home and I scroll down to Bob, I can see it's 192.168.6999. So to connect, we're going to do, let's just do it in here, 192.168.69.99, and it was port 9999. And we can see immediately we are brought to the login screen. By default, it is admin and then admin, login. Change your password. It's going to continue to prompt you if you click skip. So just go ahead and change it. I'm just going to put a random insecure one in here, and then I'll click submit. So at this point, Grafana is installed and it's running on my local network. So now I can hook up data sources and I can start building dashboards for the various services that I want to monitor. And that's it. So hopefully this was helpful. If it was, please feel free to leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one.